The last rule we're going to talk about is using semantic motion to aid understanding. So the emphasis here is on semantic motion, right? So motion that's it's not just motion for the sake of motion. So why is this important? In this example, they just X'd out of that window and it just suddenly disappeared. In the next example, they minimize the window and there's this connection there, right? If you just X out of the window, it's a hard cut. And when there's a hard cut, like there is when you just X out, it makes it difficult to understand the changes in the interface because there was a very abrupt change, like as fast as a blink of an eye, and then the brain has to be like, oh, wait, what just happened here? Oh, okay, right? And when it just happens once or twice, it's not that big of a deal, but over time, it increases the cognitive load, makes people tired more quickly. Also makes interfaces seem less natural, right? Like in the real physical world, almost nothing suddenly disappears, right? So if you want to design digital products that are more akin to what people encounter in the real world, you want to make sure that the transitions aren't super hard. Like that's something that only robots do. So yeah, motion can make it easier to make those connections between states if you do it right. So for example, this is a fast one. You have to look at it a few times. But if you tap on this image row, you see it like the image row expands, right? So it feels as if the interface is this fluid thing that's connected. Like there's just another layer opening over it, and you can make the connection between the two states. This example is even better. This is Facebook's old paper app. I don't think that's around anymore. But the motion design here is great because there's an immediate connection between the thing you interacted with and the transition to opening it up. There's no hard cut there. It feels as if, to reference something that we talked about earlier, how you imagine that your interface is just a bunch of layers that are moving and switching, but they're all kind of connected. This is another cool example. If you deselect your billing address, a new form opens up. And through that additional movement, because our brains, we have this thing in our brains called peripheral vision, right? And what peripheral vision means is that you can focus really well on like maybe 3 degrees of things in front of you. And everything else is kind of blurry, but the blurry stuff, in this area of your vision, you're really responsive to motion. So if there's a saber-toothed tiger coming your way, you're going to see that motion really quickly. Or if there's some kind of banner ad moving, you'll see that too and be super annoyed and frustrated because that banner ad just took advantage of your anatomy that you can't change. And you're really actually trying to accomplish something else. That's a whole other topic. This is an example that's not good. Like if you hit Launchpad on OS X, these icons just appear out of nowhere. Like where are they coming from? You know? Like if you imagine that the UI is connected and that is similar to what's happening in the physical world, where in the physical world does stuff appear out of nowhere? Doesn't happen. I mean, it's not a big oversight. I mean, only designers that geek out over motion will ever even notice this. But still, if you really want to focus in on those details, and you do, that's important. A much better example of this is in Linux, where if you click Show Applications, it pops out from the side. There's the connection there between the action that you just took and the new state. This is a cool example, too. I got this from Dribble. And this is cool because it's not too much, right? And so you have texture here to indicate that you can interact with it. And then when you interact with it, you get feedback right away. And I really like that this interaction is so minimalist because it's very, very easy to do motion wrong. And it's one of those things that people do wrong a lot because it's one of those things, especially because it's so new. It's really, really new in this type of interface design to do motion. And it's exciting, it's fun, right? And so people get carried away with it. So then you'll have stuff like this, right? Where, let's watch this one again from the start. So here, you click the menu at the top and then goes vroom, vroom, and these like boxes, and they're flying, and yeah, it's very acrobatic, and I guess it's for like some kind of fitness product. So they wanted some dynamism in their site probably. And the first time you use it is probably pretty fun, but imagine having to navigate this site 100 times, 200 times, right? And every time you have to sit through that 4-second animation to get the information that you want. Here's another example. You're scrolling, and then it's like doing, like from the side. Like it's kind of extra because like you're trying to focus on something here, and then out of nowhere, this back to top thing just like bounces out like, ha, here I am. You want to go back to the top? It's just too much, right? It's just like to bring analogies from real life again. It's just if someone moves too abruptly in a social setting, it's just kind of doesn't feel right, you know? Right. It's kind of awkward. A much better example is here when you scroll down and it just slowly pops into view. And what's cool about this too is that it pops into view in a place where it kind of interferes with the elements below it. So it's not intrusive, but it's also hard to miss. So what you don't want to do is stuff like this, right? Like this is not semantic motion. It looks cool. I mean, it looks great, but it's not semantic motion. This is someone who, I don't know, needs to animate a cartoon or something, right? These are people who are in the wrong profession. And so you never want to do animation just for the sake of animation. And you don't want animations to go on for too long. The real point of using motion and interface design is to bridge hard gaps, right? And make connections between states. It's not to just make stuff fly around like Iron Man armor or something. So semantic animation connects these two states. It's not animation for the sake of animation. If you're interested in learning more about this, I would recommend this article on a list apart for designing interface animation. Great primer. And I think Val has also wrote a book about the subject, but I haven't read it yet. So I can't say if it's good or not. But if it's as good as the article is, then it's going to be a good book. OK. Anything you would like to know?
You just mentioned before that you wanted to say something about your worst mistake that you made with animation. So I was wondering about that.
No, it was just, I already said it. It was just this idea of that you don't want to do animation for the sake of animation, right? It's just too extra. Oh, now I remember. So one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn early on in my designs is that nobody cares as much about that cool design that you made as you do. No one cares. People, normal people, non-designers, they want to get in, get something done, and then go back about their day, right? They don't care about this stuff. It keeps them from getting done what they want to get done. So, so it's a real challenge for designers to learn that and to sort of approach design more as a craft, like carpentry, than an art form like sculpting, right? So a big part of maturing as a designer is letting go of your ego in that respect and realizing that you're here to aid people in accomplishing something and making them more effective.
What's the best way to prototype a motion? Like, say I have this idea for my website or whatever, and I'm just trying to figure out whether I should use GIF or learn Flinto to do it, or what do you do when you design
the question of tools. There are a lot of good tools out there. And tools change over time, right? So if I give a recommendation for a tool today and someone watches this video 2 years from now, the tools will have changed. With that said, the tools that I've tried out that I've found have the right mix of being quick to pick up and having powerful functionality. Well, there's really only one. It's called Principle. And it's one of the tools that I've recommended in the bonus material as well. It took me like 4 hours to pick up and on one weekend when I was working on something. And the amount of motion that you can create in there is really, really powerful. The other tool that's been popular in the past is Adobe After Effects. But I'm not sure I would recommend using that. It's just so much stuff. And Principle is to After Effects what Sketch is to Photoshop, right? So, because Sketch is this program that took because Photoshop isn't the software to make user interfaces with. We retrofitted it for that because there was nothing better out there at the time, right? But it's really for editing photos. I mean, it got its name, the Photoshop, from Photoshops back in the day where people actually went in and edited and made adjustments to their photos. And what Sketch did is it took out like 80% of the functionality of Photoshop and just left you with the stuff that you really need to do good UI design. And Principle does something very similar for prototyping and animation. Flinto is good too. I tried Flinto, it's cool. But I like Principle a little bit better. But again, if you ask 5 different designers, what I would recommend is just try them out and see which one you like better.